Response now from Congressman Mike McCaul, the former chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, also the former chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman McCaul, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This morning. What are the big questions you have about the threat environment right now?
Well, I think it's a rising threat. When I chaired the Homeland Security Committee, we had a lot of external operations, like explosives on airplanes. Then it morphed into radicalization on the internet. I think you asked that question earlier about the evolution of the threat. And so particularly I would say the New Orleans case was radicalization online. But what we're worried about in that case is his travels to Egypt and what was going on there. He was involved with a rare bomb-making material that was not available in the United States. So I know that they're saying this is kind of a lone wolf type situation, but there are seem to be some real ISIS connections here that need to be followed up. And I know the FBI and Homeland are working very diligently scrubbing through the hard drives, laptops, and cell phones to find out what happened, but also what was he doing in Egypt for a month. He comes back. It reminds me so much, George, of the Boston bomber who traveled to Dagestan, came back, and then built this pressure cooker bomb that led to the deaths of so many people in that marathon.
What's your advice to the incoming Trump administration on what their top priorities should be right now to address this threat?
It's real. I think there's an uptick in it. I think the Christmas market vehicle attack, it's an easy way. It's like a killer machine, a vehicle that can be easily used. And I think they got to be very focused on this. The other thing, George, I'm very worried about is with the fall of Afghanistan and the debacle and with what happened there, we are seeing a resurgence of ISIS and ISIS-K in the Khorasan region between Afghanistan and Pakistan that concerns me greatly. We have seen, we know that 8 ISIS individuals have entered the United States through that. So you really have 2 types of threats. One is operational. The other one is inspired attacks radicalized over the internet. They're both equally lethal, and they need to be focused on to stop it. There are usually warning signs, though. In these cases, I don't really see a whole lot of warning signs, at least so far, other than right before the attacks. We have to pay attention to the social media and connect the dots before these events happen.
Before you go, I also want to ask you about Ukraine. You've been a strong supporter of aid to Ukraine as chair of House Foreign Affairs Committee. Do you believe that former President Trump shares your sense of urgency there?
Well, I do believe Keith Kellogg, the special envoy, talked to him many times, believes that we cannot afford to lose Ukraine to Russia. That would be a horrible foreign policy decision that would put us in the position of losing to Russia in Ukraine and threatening Eastern Europe. And the fact is, George, I can't overemphasize, as I have to my colleagues, it's not just Putin. Putin is aligned with Chairman Xi in China, who threatens the Indo-Pacific. He's also aligned with the Ayatollah in the Middle East, who we have seen threaten Israel. And they're all in this together. And Kim Jong-un has sent 10,000 troops of his own to fight Ukraine's. I just think that they're all in this together. We got to take it seriously. If we can negotiate a peaceful settlement, great. But I think the Ukrainians need more leverage that the current administration has not given them. And when they have that leverage going to the table, they'll have more, I think, power.
But I guess I'm going to go back to the question. Do you think that President Trump has used that leverage effectively in the past? Is he prepared to use it in the future?
The what now?
Do you think that former President Trump has used that leverage that you discussed in the past? Is he prepared to use it in the future?
Well, I don't think the Biden administration has given them the leverage. I think President Trump does want to end the war, have a peaceful negotiation. We're all for that. But it's got to be on terms that do not throw Ukraine under the bus. They were thrown under the bus in the Budapest agreements, where they gave up all their nuclear weapons in assurance for security, and guess what happened? There was none. And if there is a deal cut, we have to have teeth in that enforcement agreement, such that if Russia ever invades again, there will be consequences because they gave up all their nuclear weapons, Ukraine did, and there was no response after the Budapest Agreement on that. I think NATO is stronger now, and I hope the president recognizes that. They're an important ally. And just as I went to Battle of the Bulge and honor those troops, 1939, history does repeat itself, and we're seeing a threat in the Indo-Pacific and in Europe, very similar to what we saw in 1939.
Congressman McCaul, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, George.